Welcome everyone to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into the engineering, the physics, and let's be real, the very serious safety risks behind wiring high-power 48-volt systems. We're going to figure out exactly what causes those annoying inverter low-voltage alarms, unexpectedly hot terminals, and melted fuses. And we're doing it by looking closely at one absolutely crucial element: properly sizing your battery cables per a massive 10-kilowatt inverter. So, let's tackle this puzzling scenario that trips up so many installers. Picture this. You hook up a massive 10-kilowatt inverter, you charge your battery bank all the way up to 100%, but the absolute second a heavy load kicks on, boom, the whole system just shuts down. Naturally, you'd probably think you've got a weak battery or a busted inverter, right? Well, it turns out the hardware is usually perfectly fine. The real culprit is actually the wiring connecting them. An undersized battery cable basically kicks off this nasty chain reaction of wasted energy, excessive heat, and those incredibly frustrating nuisance shutdowns. Here's our agenda for today. We'll cover 1. The cable sizing myth, 2. The danger of voltage drop, 3. Heat and power loss, 4. Surges and BMS limits, and 5. Fuses and parallel banks. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the cable sizing myth and current calculations. It is actually fascinating how just ignoring a 95% inverter efficiency rating can completely throw off your math. You know, a super common shortcut is to just take 10,000 watts divided by 48 volts and boom, you get 208 amps. Sounds easy enough. But the reality is an inverter needs energy just to do the work of converting DC to AC. So when you factor in that 95% efficiency, your actual continuous draw bumps up to 219 amps. And guys, we're talking about a massive 219 amps continuously flowing through these cables. When you stop and look at that number, you quickly realize that blindly copying some simplified chart you found online is a massive risk. Think about it. If you only plan for 208 amps, your cable is literally undersized the exact moment you turn the system on at full load. This is exactly where solid engineering logic has to replace memorized shortcuts, because at currents this high, even tiny mistakes get amplified really fast. Moving right along to Section 2, the danger of voltage drop, focusing on cable resistance. So here's the thing. Every single cable has natural resistance. It doesn't matter how premium or expensive it is, there is natural resistance hiding inside that copper. And the formula here is simple but honestly quite punishing. Voltage drop equals current multiplied by resistance. What this means in practice is that under a heavy 219 amp load, a 48-volt battery might actually only deliver 44 or 45 volts to the inverter by the time the power physically gets there. And this perfectly explains why a cable that works flawlessly when it's right next to your battery will fail completely if the inverter is mounted on the other side of the room. Every single meter you add increases resistance, which means a long run significantly increases your voltage drop. This is the exact reason an inverter will trigger a low voltage shutdown, even when your battery itself is still sitting there full of usable energy. The inverter basically gets tricked into thinking the battery is dead, all because those long resistant cables choked the voltage. So the golden rule here? Keep your inverter cables as short as you safely can. Next up is Section 3, heat and power loss, specifically looking at I²R heating. Now, in electrical engineering, the power that gets lost as heat is calculated using the formula I²R. I is your current, and R is your resistance. But here's the absolutely crucial takeaway. As your current goes up, the heat being generated doesn't just climb steadily on a nice linear path. No, it absolutely skyrockets. And that's because the current is squared in that equation. This is a vital relationship you have to wrap your head around when you're working with these heavy-duty 10-kilowatt systems. To put that into perspective, let's look at the numbers. If you have a baseline amount of heat being generated at 100 amps, and then you double that current to 200 amps, you actually quadruple the heat. It is literally 4 times hotter. This is why undersized cables become incredibly dangerous, incredibly fast in high-power setups. You aren't just losing a little bit of system efficiency here. You are actively turning your wiring into a space heater. But wait, it's not just about the wire itself. Even if you have the thickest, most heavy-duty cables, a single loose lug can act like a highly concentrated heating element. If that connection isn't torqued down perfectly, the tiny gap inside basically turns your lug into, well, another mini space heater. The resistance right at that joint goes through the roof, and that leads to burnt insulation, discolored terminals, and melted fuse holders. That terminal will get so much hotter than the cable itself, causing severe hardware damage way before you even realize something's gone wrong. All right, let's jump into Section 4, surges and BMS limits, and those hidden system bottlenecks. So far, we've really only talked about continuous current. But let's be real, actual houses run on motors. We're talking well pumps, air compressors, refrigerators, and heavy air conditioning units. When these appliances fire up, they demand short, massive spikes in current that are often several times higher than their standard running power. Your battery cables absolutely must be sized to safely tolerate these short-duration, high-intensity spikes. Otherwise, your whole system is going to crash. And here is where we hit a massive hidden bottleneck. You see, many modern lithium battery systems have a battery management system, or BMS, which enforces some very strict discharge limits. The key thing to remember here is that you always have to verify that your battery specs actually match the inverter's massive appetite. Because if your battery's BMS is rated to only supply 200 amps continuously, well, a 10 kilowatt inverter will easily blow past that capability. When that happens, the BMS will just instantly shut everything down to protect the internal cells.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Fuses and Parallel Banks, focusing on system protection.
There's a really common misconception here we need to clear up. A fuse is actually there to protect the wire from melting. It's not there to protect the inverter. Its entire job is just to break the circuit before your wire catches fire during a fault. If you throw in an oversized fuse, your cable is sitting there completely unprotected. But on the flip side, if you use an undersized fuse, you are going to suffer through frustrating nuisance trips every single time the AC kicks on. So nailing that precise coordination between the cable's ampacity and the fuse rating, that's not optional, it's absolutely mandatory. Now, when you're building out these massive capacities, you're almost certainly going to be running multiple batteries in parallel. And when you do this, there is an absolute golden rule. You must use equal length conductors. Because electricity is always going to take the path of least resistance, keeping your cables the exact same length ensures the current is shared evenly across the bank. If even one cable is shorter, way more current flows through it. That creates severe imbalances, uneven wear, and excess heat inside that single battery. Equal lengths keep the whole shebang perfectly balanced. So when we look past the simplified math and really understand the physics of efficiency, resistance, and how heat scales, the true demands of a 10 kilowatt system becomes super clear. And it really begs the question for anyone out there running these massive loads. Are your cables actually safely delivering your hard-earned power, or are they secretly turning it into dangerous heat? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.